Hi, I'm Andrew from the attachment company, and in this video we're going to show you how to connect the hydraulic hoses to your new Auger Torque auger drive. This is the 3300 model that we've got on our Takeuchi TB240 mini excavator. This process is the same for all the Auger Torque drives. It just obviously varies slightly in terms of the hose size. So this is the 3300. It's our most popular auger drive for excavators and for skid steers. So we thought we would do the demonstration on this drive. These drives come with the hoses and the couplers that you'll need to connect it to your machine. The larger drives come with hoses only, so you will have to either order the couplers from us if you need couplers to install it on the machine. But the 3300 is the biggest of the auger drives with the 2-inch hex shaft from Auger Torque. The X1100 and 2100s are the popular models that we have for the mini excavators too, that are much the same. They have the same size hose, half-inch hose and half-inch couplers. And then as we go up to the 6000 and the 11000s and on up, as I mentioned, all the drives come with the hoses only. So just let us know if you have any questions on that front. So first off, we've got the drive out the box and mounted onto our cradle hitch for the machine. One thing that is often missed is there is a manual on top of the box. So it quite often gets stuck to the top, like exactly like this. But if you pull this polystyrene bit out, there is a manual, and that sits right in here on top of your box. So in the manual there is everything for all auger drives, not just to the one size, is in the manual. Besides that, you obviously get your two hoses, which in this case we've cut down to length, but the hoses are usually much longer than this. It gives you plenty of hose to reach the ports on your machine. Then you get a set of half-inch flat face couplers, and you also get these. So these are hydraulic fittings that go into the motor itself. So the threads or the fitting type that's on your hoses, couplers and in the motor is all BSP, which is British pipe thread or British standard pipe. That is somewhat of a less common thread type to find here in the US, although most hydraulic stores should be familiar with a BSP. Like I said, in this case it doesn't matter because you get the hoses and the couplers. So as long as you can get to a half-inch coupler, then obviously these don't matter. But for our larger drives that just come with hoses, if you're going to supply your own couplers, they will also be BSP, just larger than this size. So this is half-inch. It's half-inch in obviously the motor itself. And the first thing, one of the common problems that we get is people either use these the wrong way around, or they don't have the little O-ring washer that's on the one side up against the flat surface of the motor, and then it just leaks. And what happens is the oil leaks slowly down and comes out this little spot here, and then people are worried that their gearbox is leaking or that they don't know where the leak is coming from, when it's usually from up at these ports. So that's one thing to really pay attention to. One other thing that sometimes people get mixed up on is because the male end that's on the hose, they'll put that into the female that goes into the motor, when it is the side with the 90s and the females, you just use this male adapter to get out from the motor into this female. So first step is obviously to take the caps off. Sometimes they're quite stuck on there. And one other common problem that we come across is this time it did come off, I'll show you up close, but there is a little rubber gasket on the plug that's in the motor when you get it. So sometimes with the paint that sticks to the surface of the actual motor itself, and then it doesn't seal properly when you put your lines on. So just make sure that that little rubber gasket comes off, and you might need a set of pliers depending on how tight these plugs are, but these two came out not too bad. Let me show you up close what that looks like. So this is what the ports look like. Here is the little rubber gasket that can get stuck right on here, and people think it's supposed to be there, and they tighten their hoses down on top of it, and then it doesn't seal properly. So just make sure that comes off on your plug. So I've got both plugs off. Now what we'll do is thread in these male adapters. So these are the same threads on both sides, but what it lets you do is seal this down against the motor itself, and then your female hose end will go on here. So we'll thread both of these in and tighten them down. We'll just do one at a time because it's easier to get into. And these are 1/2 inch BSP, as I mentioned, so that's going to take either a 1 1/16 size wrench or 27mm, depending on which you like better. But the easiest way to do it is to tighten these down to your drive first, so we get a good seal against the face. These can be a bit awkward to get on sometimes, but so that's that tightened down. Then next we'll take our hose end, as I mentioned, the 90 degrees and the female. We'll put this bottom one on first, and then we'll angle it up so that it follows where it's going. But if you've got the bottom one on first, then you can just tighten this up by itself. Get the other side. And as I mentioned, these hoses are pretty long from the factory, so it gives you plenty of hose to reach wherever your ports are. We've shortened these ones down so they're not too long in the way, because too long can also be a bit of a pain. So that lets the hoses come out past the cradle. Now that our hoses are on, we can connect the flat face couplers. We've got the male on this side of the machine, so we'll put the female on here. And same as the motor side, there should be a bonded washer on the male fitting. Since this is threading into a flat surface, you need that washer to seal up against the coupler. So these are 1/2 inch that come as standard, which is pretty common on about every skid steer and Mini X, but if you need a different size, we can also get those for you. And then you'll just need your 1 1/16 or 27mm for the hose end, and a decent size adjustable for the coupler itself. This is a bit more easy if you've got a table or something to do it against, but should be tight enough. So that's our hoses on. And then once we've relieved the pressure from the machine, these should just plug right in. You get the little rubber dust caps that are handy for when it's not on the machine. See if we need to go and relieve the pressure, maybe. Nope. Pull this down out the way. And then we should should be ready to work. Now, as in the manual, at the first time you've hooked up your auger drive, you should run it in either direction for a good few minutes to let all the temperatures get up, make sure there's no leaks in the gearbox or from the motor itself. But as I mentioned before, just pay attention up here, as more often than not, this is where any leaks are going to come from. This is your gearbox, obviously down from here down. This is a drain plug for the gear oil, but if there's any leaks coming from out here, this is just a slot to let any rainwater or any oil drain out of the hood itself. So if there's anything coming out here, it's more than likely coming from up here. It's not coming from your gearbox, more than likely. Then obviously all your information is on top as far as the serial number and all that goes. If you have got any issues or any issues down the line, obviously there's a good warranty with the Auger Torque products. 6 years on this gear sub, 3 on the hydraulic motor that's in the drive, and then just 2 on everything else. So the next thing is just pin on whatever auger bit or log splitter or stump planer you're using, and then put it to work. So if you have any questions on setting up your auger drive, the small drives are pretty much plug and play, ready to go straight to work. There's not usually anything that needs to be done on the machine side, but if you have any questions, just get in touch and we'll help you out. Just give it a run in both directions.